When the energy crisis hit in '73, the emphasis was entirely on supply, and I just sort of called a timeout and said, wait a minute, let's start with what we want the energy for. What's the best way to do that job? That turned out to be a much more fruitful approach.
I was in undergraduate class at Stanford University with a professor named Gil Masters, and he showed me this article that had just come out in Foreign Affairs by this guy named Lovins, Amory Lovins, and he asked the very basic question.
What are the many different tasks that we want the energy for?
What do we use all that energy for?
And what is the amount and type and source of energy which will do each task in the cheapest way?
And can't we do it more efficiently?
People tend to be intimidated by energy, to say we have to leave this to the experts. It has to do with all these big complicated machines that we can't understand. It isn't like that at all. The energy problem is the cracks around my window.
At the time, that was absolute heresy, and he had to really stand up to the entire energy establishment.
You give no source material on these statistics that you presented. Are they God, U.S. government, my handbook of fraudulent statistical manual, or just what is the source material for them?
Maybe I should run through that one again slowly. In '77, President Carter had me into the Oval Office to talk about the paper.
The two areas where we waste most of our energy are transportation and our heating and cooling systems.
President Carter's policies were encouraging. We had no illusion, however, that that was the end of the matter.
And there is yet another promising fuel, oil extracted from shale.
Now this is more oil than the proven oil deposits of the entire world.
I was cross-pollinating across the energy grapevine from '71 to '81. During that time, got married.
They spend much of each year on the move, consulting for governments and corporations and speaking to a wide variety of groups. Their exhausting schedule juggles countless speaking engagements with stretches of writing and thinking time, and even includes several weeks to work with kids at a summer camp in Maine.
Hunter and I moved back from London in '81 and started looking for a little land where we could build a nest and gather just a handful of colleagues so we'd be more effective. We found some land in Old Snowmass that would be suitable as the headquarters of this little nonprofit we would start.
It's not just an institute, it's their home too, shared with colleagues who also share the Lovins' vision of changing old notions on energy.
I was struck by the fact that this guy had already thought through a whole array of issues that I had maybe thought about in pieces. We're in the midst of these serious environmental problems, but no, here are the solutions.
And gradually, as we accreted more people, we started doing some quite interesting work.
And it was a pretty high time. We were all pretty excited about what we were doing.
It was very informal, and it was great that way. It was fun.
I remember one of the first things when I first came to RMI, I was standing behind him and we were working on a document together, and he was typing faster than I could read.
It seemed to, it worked at the time. Now it seems like we were chipping the messages out of stone, but it worked.
Every 5 or 10 years we would put out a book or a major paper about how climate protection was profitable. The arguments became more and more compelling. And one of these days I think they'll be generally accepted. Rocky Mountain Institute's mission statement has only been refined by changing a few words in 25 years. The goals haven't changed. The staff has gotten a lot better. I've learned a lot, and I think we're now on the brink of a whole new level of effectiveness.
Amory has been a champion of thought leadership in the space for decades. There's no question. What he's done now is brought in people around him that have corporate experience and execution experience to bring ideas to the marketplace.
And that meant bringing in another CEO, which we've just done.
I'm a high technology entrepreneur. My background is all about finding innovations, finding out how to implement them, and then convincing the world to adopt them.
Amory now is really freed up to be the visionary that he is. So it's a really great partnership.
With his execution and my vision and a very powerful team we've been assembling, I think we're taking a big step in a hurry to much greater capacity and effectiveness.
RMI has 4 research and consulting groups: Amory's Office of the Chief Scientist, our Breakthrough Design Team, Built Environment Team, and the Energy and Resources Team.
Well, the work that we do in our energy research and consulting is pretty diverse, but a lot of it has to do with helping companies use advanced strategies for energy efficiency. We work with a variety of industries ranging from semiconductor chips to potato chips, literally.
We have some engineers, we have some people with business backgrounds and economic backgrounds, and I think that combining all of those skill sets together provides the ability to look at problems in a whole new way.
One project that I'm really excited about is the smart garage. We work with vehicles, we work with utilities and the power grid, and the place where all of those things come together is actually your garage.
This is really about transforming the electric utility industry.
We began to see the entire energy system as an integrated system, more efficient and more easily powered by renewable sources.
With a lot of the companies we've worked with more recently, they've really come to us and said, we believe it. We believe that we can do things in a more sustainable way. What we need your help with now is simply figuring out how to do that.
This is potentially huge, implications for the electric utility sector. I mean, just absolutely enormous what we're doing right now.
Our built environment team is focused on transforming the building industry.
We're looking at breakthrough design, literally what it says, in making things much more energy efficient.
It's a very difficult process to change. Buildings are here for decades and centuries, so it takes a long time to have a big impact.
So one of the exciting things that we do is we look at, in this case, a chip fab, a factory that's making microchips, and we slash its energy use. RMI is not interested in small incremental changes.
We have the opportunities now to really integrate the three main focuses on our research and consulting side.
This is an integration between the architecture and the engineers, and that sort of close working together.
So it really is a multi-angular approach that we're taking to these complex level of issues.
You got to look at it, and as we look at transportation and utilities and buildings and the landscape and all of these things fitting together, it's amazing the kinds of impacts we can have.
We're really trying to create buildings that are regenerative, that produce more energy than they use or create clean water. And we want to do it in a way that is convincing to the rest of the world, so we inspire key decision makers to make a difference in their buildings.
We're in a great position, I think, now because we've got kind of a lot of the answers, and now we're starting to get clients that are asking us how to get there.
While RMI was working on the Hypercar, I was actually living in a parallel universe in Detroit, developing the EV1 for General Motors. The EV1 was a product that put a smile on people's faces. Everyone who drove that vehicle loved it. And oh, by the way, it produced zero emissions. So that was a compelling experience in my life that said this can be done.
So what we're doing today is working on literally the next generation hypercar.
We do a lot of driving every day within a short distance of our home, and those miles can be easily covered by renewable sources.
And the benefit of that is you can actually run on pure electricity for 30, 40 miles and then still have the range of a conventional car.
It all started with a problem. That's what RMI does. We look at the problems first. And it was kind of an interesting story. We actually had a donor called RMI and said, I looked out my window here in Miami, Florida, and I noticed my postal service delivery person stopping at my house. He said, why aren't you driving hybrid vehicles? He said, well, we don't have hybrid vehicles. And so Simon Rose called Rocky Mountain Institute and said, you got to fix this problem.
And RMI for plug-in hybrids is taking our DNA that we've developed at Hypercar and leading an industry consortium to really redefine the PHEV in a very practical way.
We were talking about saving the fleet 1.5 billion gallons of gasoline over the fleet life. That's the same as a 6-lane swimming pool of gasoline from New York City to Philadelphia. A swimming pool you don't want to swim in.
The stars have aligned here in a way that was not present in the 90s. The corporate decision makers are beginning to think differently about their impact, not just from an environmental perspective, but from a sustainable economic model.
We have a great chance, literally in 5 years, that the audience might see a new generation of 100-mile-per-gallon vehicles. And I think you're going to see RMI stamp all over those.
And this dependence on foreign oil is a matter of national security.
The message is not new.
Alternative sources of fuel.
Improve our energy security.
Closer to energy independence.
I know that we can meet this energy challenge.
To foreign energy disruption. Self-sufficiency.
in energy.
Winning the oil endgame is a roadmap for getting the United States completely off oil by the 2040s, led by business for profit. We identified early the Pentagon as a key ally in getting the country off oil. They're highly motivated to do that because they are spending untold blood and treasure hauling oil around, so this is a wonderfully teachable moment for getting the Pentagon behind radically improved platform efficiency. That in turn will drive the civilian car, truck, and plane industries. The military is a wonderful ally to have, and their vigorous initial efforts at implementing it is going to be a great national asset and global asset for security. Churchill once said you can always count on Americans to do the right thing once they've exhausted all other alternatives. We've just been working our way well down the list, and we must be pretty near the bottom by now.
The vision that Amory laid out in Soft Energy Paths, in hindsight, looks just very simple. And I think some of the great insights in the world, in history, when you look back at them, they look so simple.
I'll be talking only about using less energy just by using the energy more productively.
And now, of course, his view is the conventional wisdom, and we know that he was right.
The one thing that hasn't changed is his front pocket. I think he had a little bit more gizmos in the early 90s. He had a Geiger counter, he had 2 calculators, he had a bee sting kit, 2 cups. One of my favorite Amory sayings is that he likes to show full frontal nerdity.
One of the great things about having Amory as our thought leader and chief scientist is that his incredible intellect attracts extraordinary talent.
It's an institute made up of 70 really smart people that are all solving problems.
And what we call ourselves today is a think and do tank. And we really mean that, and we're really doing it.
And as we move forward, what we're really trying to do is to develop more of that implementation side and have more of an ability to take the really innovative and exciting ideas that we come up with and get them distributed.
We're doing more and having a bigger impact.
We're becoming better in performance in our business processes.
And that makes me jazzed. I'm totally excited about the ability of taking a thought to reality.
The things that we are now saying at RMI are not at their core any different than what we said 25 years ago. What's happened in that 25 years is that the world is caught up. So I find that extraordinarily encouraging.
The world is looking to us with a view of where they need to be in the future. This is a great opportunity for us.
I aspire to the mindset that Pablo Casals is said to have showed. He was asked one day, Senor Casals, you're the greatest cellist the world has ever known. You're 92 years old. You're practicing 6 hours a day. Why do you do it? He said, I think I detect signs of improvement.
Well, actually, the other day, we did refer in passing to the old days, but it was a 15-second digression. We're always talking about the future.
Try to amend unsustainable habits and change my inefficient ways. Build an Energy Star, drive a hypercar. My rooftop PV panels are soaking up rays, but at night I have these wonderful dreams. Some green kind of panacea, not nuclear, clean coal, or sequestered fumes.